Walked past the window of a new antique shop downtown. There in the display case was our mother's quilt, the one she hand-stitched when I was born, the one we used for every picnic, the one I thought had been stored safely in her cedar chest. Price tag $120. No mention of who made it. No memory attached. Just another item my sister had discarded. That night, I sat at the edge of my bed with a box of old things, my mother's recipe cards, her flour-dusted apron, and a picture of her holding a pie she made for the church bake sale, smiling like the world was still whole. And that's when I knew I couldn't take back what she stole, but I could take back what she never valued. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want lawyers. I didn't want the house that no longer held warmth, or the money that came with silence. I wanted something that mattered more. I wanted my mother's name, the one my sister left off the obituary headline, the one she never mentioned to the appraiser, the one she forgot belonged to someone real. Her name was Caroline May, and she raised 2 daughters with hands that baked, mended, and held the weight of everything without ever asking to be thanked. So I took her name and printed it on something she would have been proud of. A pie box. The first one, I folded myself with tears in my eyes and a lump in my throat. I wrote it in script, Caroline's kitchen, made from scratch with love. No storefront, no business plan, just a folding table, 2 pies, and a handwritten sign. I set up at the edge of town near the farmer's market. The first woman who tasted the peach cobbler said, "This tastes like my mama used to make." I smiled. Mine too. That was the beginning, not of revenge, but of remembrance. My sister Elaine always had a way of walking into a room and making everyone look at her. It wasn't just her beauty, though, she had plenty of that. It was her confidence. The way she spoke like she belonged no matter where she was. Even as kids, she was the one people noticed. I was the quiet one, the helper, the one who cleaned up after the party when no one else remembered the mess. Our mother loved us both, I know she did. But when Daddy died, it was like something broke in her. She grew quieter, more tired. And Elaine, well, she left. Scholarship, big city, bigger dreams. "I can't stay in this small town forever," she said. "I need to become something." And I guess she did. While I stayed behind. I took care of Mom after her diagnosis, drove her to every appointment, bathed her when the pain became too much, cooked soup when she couldn't eat anything else, cried with her, laughed with her, watched her fade. Elaine sent flowers, cards. She flew in for 2 weekends and left early both times, and I never held it against her. She had a life. I had a promise to stay, a promise to be there. When Mom passed, I thought Elaine and I would grieve together. That something in us would meet in the middle between her ambition and my loyalty. That maybe finally we'd feel like sisters again. But I should have known. She showed up with a folder of documents, told me the house would go in her name for tax purposes, that Mom had mentioned wanting her to handle the estate. I didn't ask for proof. I didn't ask questions. I signed where she told me to, because I was tired, because I didn't want to fight, because it was easier to let her take the lead than to risk the only connection I had left. When the movers came, I stood on the porch and watched boxes disappear into a truck. Elaine waved once from the driveway. She smiled like she'd done something kind. She kept saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything." And she did. She took care of everything, including the things that weren't hers to take. She sold the house, emptied the joint account, cleared out the attic. Even the handmade Christmas ornaments Mom and I made during her chemo were gone. I called to ask about them. Elaine said she must have accidentally donated them with the other clutter. That was the word she used, clutter. 70 years of life love, grief and survival reduced to clutter. But I didn't raise my voice. I said, "Okay." Because after so many years of playing second, you learn how to make silence feel like survival. But what she never realized is that silence doesn't mean surrender. It means I was waiting for something that mattered. And when I found it in a shoebox full of recipe cards and handwritten notes, I finally understood she could have the furniture. She could have the money. But I had the legacy. I didn't plan to go back to the house. It wasn't mine anymore. Elaine made that perfectly clear when she sold it without telling me, just a quick cash deal to some out-of-town investor, according to the neighbor. But something in me couldn't let it go. Not yet. So one week after the sale, I drove over quietly and parked across the street. The new owners hadn't moved in. The curtains were gone. The porch light was off. The home I grew up in looked hollow. I walked up the steps slowly, not to break in, just to feel, just to say goodbye the way I hadn't been allowed. The front door was locked, of course, but the side gate wasn't. I walked around to the backyard, the grass already overgrown, the flower beds trampled from moving day. The rosebush was gone. Mom's rosebush. The one she'd planted the year Daddy died. The one she trimmed every spring, talking to it like it could hear her. The one I promised I'd keep blooming no matter what. It was ripped out. Just gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the bare patch of earth, my fingers curling around nothing. That was the moment. Not the house, not the will, not the bank account. The rosebush. That's what broke me. Because in that moment, I realized Elaine hadn't just taken things. She'd erased meaning. She'd removed roots. Uprooted everything that made our family ours, and treated it like it was disposable. I didn't cry. I went home, took off my shoes at the door, and sat on the floor of my pantry where Mom used to keep her recipe box. It was a simple tin with chipping paint and rusted corners. Inside were yellowed cards, some smudged with butter or sugar. Her handwriting curved in elegant loops, sometimes interrupted by notes in the margins. Add more cinnamon for cold days. David liked this one with extra crust. This was what she left me, not legally, not formally, but spiritually. This was her legacy, her flavor, her hands in flour, her presence. And that night, I decided I wouldn't let it sit in a box anymore. I pulled out the peach pie recipe, her signature, the one she made for church picnics and funerals and birthdays and breakups. I knew it by heart, but followed it anyway, like a ritual. I even tied on her old apron, threadbare and stained, and played her favorite Patsy Cline record in the background. The smell filled the kitchen and cracked something open inside me. I cut one slice, set it on a plate, and ate it at the same kitchen table I had once cried at after signing away everything. But this time I didn't feel like I had nothing. I felt like I had everything, because I had her, her love, her labor, her memory. Elaine had taken the house, the money, the objects, but I had the spirit of the woman who built it all, and I knew then I didn't need to take revenge. I needed to take it back in my own way, starting with her name. The first day it was just a folding table. I borrowed it from the church basement, set it up at the Saturday farmers market, and placed a single pie peach, of course, on a cake stand my mother once used for potlucks. I wore her apron ironed as best I could, and stood behind the table not expecting anything. Not sales, not sympathy, just a beginning. I painted a small wooden sign the night before Caroline's kitchen, made from scratch with love. That name, Caroline May, hadn't been spoken in public since her funeral. Elaine didn't even include it on the obituary header. She said Caroline sounded too old-fashioned. But I knew better. Old-fashioned isn't a flaw. It's a foundation. That first morning, an older gentleman paused at the table. He tilted his head. "Your mama used to bake pies at the fall festival, didn't she?" "Yes, sir. I'm her daughter." He nodded, his voice warm. "I remember her peach pie. Bought one every year. He handed me $5. Let me be your first customer." By noon, the pie was gone. By the next weekend, I brought 2. By the end of the month, I had people lining up before I even finished setting up. The name spread, Caroline's kitchen. The name she carried. The one she cooked with. The one she mothered with. The one Elaine tried to bury beneath legal documents and real estate listings. But you can't bury someone whose memory feeds people. Eventually, a local reporter showed up young, fresh out of journalism school, and craving something real. She interviewed me under the market tent while I boxed up apple tarts and banana cream slices. "What made you start this?" I smiled. "Grief and gratitude." The article ran the next week, "Daughter Revives Late Mother's Legacy Through Pies and Quiet Strength." It went viral. People started visiting from out of town. Some brought recipe cards and stories. some brought tears, all brought hunger for something deeper than food. I rented a storefront by the edge of town, painted it sunflower yellow, put a wooden sign above the door, Caroline's Kitchen. Inside, I hung black and white photos of my mother kneading dough, holding David as a baby, laughing beside her old red mixer. I added one of her handwritten recipes to the wall in a vintage frame. Everywhere you looked, you felt her, and I made sure of it. I trained every employee to serve with kindness, not speed. We didn't do Wi-Fi. We did warmth. We didn't upsell. We offered second helpings. One morning, Elaine called. She had seen the article, the store, the Instagram page that one of the college girls working the counter had created. "It's beautiful," she said. "Really?" I didn't think. It's impressive. I waited. Then she said the thing I'd expected. I was wondering if maybe I could be part of it somehow. Help with the expansion. Use Mom's name to grow it nationally. There's opportunity here. And just like that, I knew nothing had changed. She didn't see the heart, just the headline. She didn't see the legacy, just the leverage. So I said simply, no. She was stunned. No. This is for the people who stayed, Elaine, not the ones who swept through and left dust behind. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. But that night, I baked an extra pie. I placed it in the display window with a note for the women who stayed, who served, who were forgotten but never gone. People sometimes ask if I did it for revenge, if I started Caroline's Kitchen just to get back at Elaine, if the pies were a statement, if the storefront was a way to show her what she lost. And I understand why they ask. But no, I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I missed my mother. I missed the sound of her humming in the kitchen, the smell of cinnamon and nutmeg drifting down the hallway, the way she used food not just to feed, but to love, to forgive, to connect. Elaine got the house, the bank account, the legal authority, but she never understood what made those things mean something. She got the shell. I got the soul, and that made all the difference. Caroline's Kitchen is no longer just a pie shop. It's where widows gather for coffee and talk about the husbands they still set a place for. It's where kids come after school and do their homework at the corner table, while I bring them extra whipped cream. It's where I host a gratitude dinner every Thanksgiving Eve for people who have nowhere else to go, but still want to feel like they belong. It's where I see my mother's spirit daily in smiles and pie crust, and stories that begin with, "You won't believe what she used to say," and it's mine. Built not from bitterness, but from breadcrumbs of love I refuse to let go of. Sometimes I think about Elaine. I wonder if she realizes what she gave up. Not just the bakery, but the meaning, the history, the heart. I don't hate her. I never really did. I just stopped letting her write the ending to my story. Now I write it myself. Every recipe card I pass on. Every stranger I serve with tenderness. Every time someone says, "I haven't tasted pie like this since my mama's kitchen." That's the legacy I protect. Not with locks and keys, but with open hands, warm ovens, and my mother's name on the window. Have you ever let someone take what was rightfully yours because it seemed easier than fighting? Have you ever stayed silent until something inside you whispered, "Take it back"? But take it back with grace. Tell your story in the comments. Maybe you didn't win the money. Maybe you didn't get the house. But maybe, just maybe, you're the one carrying the soul of the story. Share how you turned loss into legacy. Your strength might be the recipe another woman needs today.